just wish he knew. Just wish he knew.
Well then, we're back. Back again. Back again it seems. Get a couple of things going here real quick. All right. Almost. Almost. All right. Let's see. I'm going to need this a-hole first. This fucking douchebag. Alright. Almost. God damn it. Wait. You motherfucker. Perfect. Alright, let's jump into this motherfucker. Part 2 of the Soviet Afghan War. Let's get ready. Let's do it. The war now developed into a new pattern. The Soviets occupied the cities and the main axis of communication, while the Afghan Mujahideen, which the Soviet army soldiers called Dushman, meaning enemy, divided into small groups and waged a guerrilla war in the mountains. Almost 80% of the country was outside government control. The Soviet troops were deployed in strategic areas in the northeast, especially along the road from Termez to Kabul. In the west, a strong Soviet presence was maintained to counter Iranian influence. Incidentally, Soviet units would have also performed secret attacks on Iranian territory to destroy suspected Mujahideen bases and their helicopters, then got engaged in shootings with the Iranian jets. Conversely, some of the regions such as Nuristan in the northeast and Hazarajat in the central mountains of Afghanistan were virtually untouched by the fighting and lived in almost complete independence. I'm gonna butcher the shit out of these names. Periodically, the Soviet army undertook multi-divisional offenses into Mujahideen-controlled areas. Between 1980 and 1985, 9 offensives were launched into the strategically important Panjshir Valley. But government control in the area did not improve. Heavy fighting also occurred in the provinces neighboring Pakistan, where cities and government outposts were constantly besieged by the Mujahideen. Massive Soviet operations would regularly break these sieges, but the Mujahideen would return as soon as the Soviets left. In the west and south, fighting was more sporadic except that in the cities of Herat and Kandahar, which were always partly controlled by the resistance. The Soviets did not initially foresee taking on such an active role in fighting the rebels and attempted to play down their role there as giving light assistance to the Afghan army. However, the arrival of the Soviets had the opposite effect, as it instead of pacified the people, causing the Mujahideen to gain in strength and numbers. Originally, the Soviets thought that their forces would strengthen the backbone of the Afghan army and provide assistance by securing major cities, lines of communication, and transportation. The Afghan army forces had high desertion rate and were loath to fight, especially since Soviet forces pushed them into infantry roles while they manned the armored vehicles and and artillery. The main reason that the Afghan soldiers were so ineffective, though, was their lack of morale, as many of them were not truly loyal to the communist government, but simply wanting a paycheck. Of course. Hey, Shane, welcome in. How you doing? How you doing? Once it became apparent that the Soviets would have to get their hands dirty, they followed three main strategies aimed at quelling the uprising. Intimidation was the first strategy, in which Soviets would use airborne attacks and armored ground attacks to destroy villages, livestock, and crops in trouble areas. The Soviets would bomb villages that were near sites of guerrilla attacks on Soviet convoys or known to support resistance groups. The local people were forced to either flee their homes or die, as daily Soviet attacks made it possible to live in these areas. By forcing the people of Afghanistan to flee their homes, the Soviets hoped to deprive the guerrillas of resources and safe havens. The second strategy consisted of subversion, which entailed sending spies to join resistance groups and report information, as well as bribing local tribes or guerrilla leaders into ceasing operations. And finally, the Soviets used military forays into contested territories in an effort to root out the guerrillas and limit their operations. Classic search and destroy operations were implemented using MiL M-24 helicopter gunships that would provide cover for ground forces and armored vehicles. Once the villages were occupied by Soviet forces, inhabitants who remained were frequently interrogated and tortured for information or killed. That was really well timed on that fucking slideshow, the way that fucking Let's go! That was amazing. Ah, shit, it couldn't have been any better. Afghanistan is our Vietnam. Look at what has happened. We began by simply backing a friendly regime. Slowly we got more deeply involved. Then we started manipulating the regime, sometimes using desperate measures. And now we are bogged down in a war we cannot win and cannot abandon. But for Brezhnev and company, we would never have got into it in the first place. Vladimir Kuzychkin, a KGB defector, 1982. To complement their brute force approach to weeding out the insurgency, the Soviets... Yeah, dude, that almost seemed planned, right? To complement their brute force approach to weed out the insurgency, the Soviets used KHAD, Afghan Secret Police, to gather intelligence and infiltrate the Mujahideen, spread false information, bribe tribal militias into fighting and organize a government militia. While it was impossible to know exactly how successful the KHAD was in infiltrating Mujahideen groups, it is thought that they succeeded in penetrating a good many resistance groups based in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iran. KHAD is thought to have had particular success in igniting internal rivalries and political divisions amongst the resistance groups, rendering some of them completely useless because of infighting. Wrecked. The KHAD had some success in securing tribal loyalties, but many of these relationships were fickle and temporary. Often, KHAD secured neutrality agreements rather than committed political alignment. The Serendoi were a centrally commanded government paramilitary group placed under the control of the Ministry of Interior Affairs, before being placed under the control of the Unified Ministry of State Secretary in 1986. They had a mixed success in the war, as Osama bin Laden and the Arab Mujahideen fought Serendoi's 7th Operation Regiment. Hold on. We're going to think about that for... Hello? My mouse died. Weird. We're going to think about that for a second. I'm going to reread that last sentence. They had mixed success in the war, as Osama bin Laden and the Arab Mujahideen fought the Serendoy's 7th Operation Regiment, only to fail and sustain massive casualties. Now, the funny thing about that is, as we discussed in the last episode, the United States is funding the Mujahideen against Russia because it's, Cold War. Is this pre-USSR dissolvement? Shit. Like, ain't that some shit, Ain't that some shit? Yep, we funded this guy. This fucking guy right here. Fucking Osama bin Laden. Gotta not love it. The label Serendoy additionally included traffic police, provincial officers, and correlations labor facility officers. Okay, I also want... Hold on. Going back... Wait a minute. I want to address something real quick. Right? First off, no disrespect to Grid 1 Motorsports, dude's a fucking legend. However, I completely disagree that leaving any of that shit over there was a big problem, right? Now, I say this on for multiple reasons. Yeah, they got some okay shit, right? They got some okay shit. I understand that. And I'm not arguing against, that we should have left anything or what, I don't think we should have left anything at all. To be completely honest with you, I really don't think we should have left anything at all. However, I really don't think our military strategists are that stupid as to not consider what the damages would be given what we left behind, if we left it behind. Right? And what I mean by that is, yeah, they have some relatively okay equipment considering what the rest of the world has, right? But that's the rest of the world's fucking problem. That's not our problem. I mean, I don't think we should have gone in there in the first place. But, whatever. We thought we could do what the Russians couldn't, and we failed, just like the Russians did. Just saying. Now, all that aside, we have, like the shit we left over there fails in comparison to our actual new technology. And I'm not talking about the F-35s. I know he brought up the F-35s, but that's not what I mean. The F-35 is actually relatively old. That's old news. That ain't nothing. We got directed energy weapons now. Just send a fucking satellite with a directed energy weapon up there and just fucking lock it onto you. Doesn't matter what you're in or what you're flying. You're just going to get melted in whatever metal contraption you're in. We don't have to worry about any of that shit. I'm not going to say specifically what the weapons are because I genuinely don't know. That shit's classified, right? But I'm not stupid. The United States always has an ace up their sleeve. I don't think our military strategists would have it any other way. I mean, that's like military strategy 101 is you never show your full hand to the enemy. So yeah, we gave them a bunch of shit, but whoop-de-fucking-do. There's nobody else on the planet that was gonna buy it anyways. So what, we would have brought it back and it would have just gone to rust because it's hard for me to say in 5 years all that shit will be obsolete when it's literally currently obsolete. Our own shit is obsolete to us. And since our shit is the best shit, everybody else's shit is obsolete. Even if they get our shit, right? Because we don't have to use our best shit on the rest of the world. They haven't caught up yet. China and Russia, no, they haven't caught up yet. we would like them to believe that they caught up. That's also a strategy. Oh yes, we would like them to believe that. That they're all caught up and they're ready to go, and then all of a sudden, you get bitch slapped by a laser from fucking space or some shit. Because the US found a way to weaponize the moon. I don't fucking know. You know what I mean? But I guarantee you our technology is not as limited as it was back at the end of the Gulf War, which is pretty much the same technology we used when we went back. Right? That's my only point. I really don't think it was like a super huge deal. I think that the media, or, you know, maybe other media sources that are giving their opinions just kind of blow it out of proportion. Like, blow it way out of proportion. I mean, let's be real. This is gonna sound like a dick thing to say, but I'm just fucking being real. You expect me to be afraid of some people that never made it out of the desert and wouldn't have any of the technology they have unless other people left it there or gave it to them? I'm just not afraid of that. I'm sorry, there's no incentive to be afraid of anything that has to do with a bunch of people that never made it out of the desert technology-wise. They're just never... Show me anything that competes with US, Russia, or China that came out of the Middle East that's not Israeli. Or Egyptian, because Egypt has a lot of Russian technology, which is, like, totally not even fair. Right? So you can't count Egypt, and you can't count Israel, but every other, you know, all the Arab nations, where is their, you know, air superiority? There isn't any, unless the rest of Europe supplies it for them. Alright, let me catch up on Shane's chats here. Hold on. Okay, we could talk about that. Drone warfare basically obsoletes 90% of all equipment. Yup. Exactly. Yeah, people who don't understand how advanced the U.S. is were freaking out over China's drone carriers. Meanwhile, actual strategists just shrugged and said, neat, those drones have global reach? No? Right? Okay. So that's another thing that cracks me up is, like, people get all up in arms about some shit, and it's like, dude, really? Okay, when you see a horde of F-22s flying above you, then you might want to be a little worried. And I mean, like, not just like one or two. I mean, like, when you see a fucking squadron, or maybe even 4 squadrons flying in any given direction, you're like, okay, something's being mobilized. You're right to question what the hell's going on. I mean, they could be just moving from one place to another. But if there's some suspicious shit going on, like, oh, there's a, you know, satellite balloon floating over the country, and then all of a sudden fucking, you know, there's a bunch of F-22s flying around the coast on both sides, and then you have, you know, Air Force fucking defending the north. It's like, okay, well, something's obviously up, right? But, like, people get all up in arms. There's nothing going on. We had a dude, I think we sent out one pilot to shoot down that other fucking thing that was floating. The biggest deal of it was the cost of that equipment left behind. Yeah, I mean, the way that I look at that is we already spent the money on it, right? If it's used, its value's been decreased anyways. You know, like it's just, it's depreciated equipment. Like the cost value. Oh yeah, everybody in the media always judges the cost value of the equipment that we use at brand new value. Like the F-22s that get fucking bought from, I do believe Lockheed, right? I do believe Lockheed is the F-22, and like, their brand new price is the one, but it's like, okay, if the F-22's been in service for 10 years, you know what I mean? That F-22 is no longer worth its fucking like selling price, I guess. It's price when it was brand new. So that's like part of my argument is we left a bunch of old shit. The MRAPs are cool and all, but their big selling point is anti-ambush and anti-mine capabilities. Last I checked, the U.S. didn't use mines and ambushes from Tomahawk isn't the same as 10... Yeah, seriously. Seriously. I mean, shit, man. Even though half our shit's outdated, like... Bro, we still use planes from the fucking 70s. Like, we still use planes we used in Vietnam. We still use F-4s. They haven't been retired. Like, we still have active F-4s in the military. F-4 Phantoms. Like, are you kidding me? We have A-10s. We have all kinds of old shit. F-15s, F-16s, F-18s. Like, all in use. We still use the Apache helicopter. Like, man, we still have all this shit because nobody else is caught up to where any of that shit really is. It's kind of funny. It's like, and we're ahead of that. We could make all that shit turn into dust. But I genuinely think tank warfare is pretty much done for. I think tank warfare with, like, the furtherment of drone technology and shit like that, I don't think that there's even an incentive to put tanks on the battlefield anymore. Soon, I don't even think that we'll have, like, manned pilot or manned aircraft in the Air Force. We'll just have drones that are flown by dudes that play video games. Like, that's basically what the future of war is going to turn into. It's going to turn into some, like, reduce the amount of, you know, human cost by just sending in equipment, and whoever has more resources to build more equipment wins. Or who can deal the most damage the quickest. They dropped bombs in World War II. Yeah. How many B-52s still get used? Shit, man, that's a good question. Without caring too much. Yeah, exactly. Any tanks that aren't American made? Yeah, given a Bradley IFV took on 2 T-90s and fucking won. Yeah, seriously. Seriously. Our tanker operators are the fucking best in the world, dude. But they're all going to be obsolete soon. I really think so. I really genuinely believe that all our tank operators are going to be obsolete. Tanks are not going to be a fucking thing for very much longer. Neither is a manned Air Force. Anyways, let's get back into this. The label Serendoy additionally included traffic police, provincial officers and corrections labor facility officers. Large-scale salaries and proper weapons attracted a good number of recruits to the cause, even if they were not necessarily pro-communist. The problem was that many of the recruits they attacked were in fact mujahideen, who would join up to procure arms, ammunition, and money, while also gathering information about forthcoming military operations. Dang! Reverse spied on! Shit! Fuck! Ain't that a bitch? Ah. By the end of 1981, there were reports of Bulgarian armed forces present in the Mazar-i-Sharif, the Warsaw Pact, and the Cuban Revolutionary Armed Forces, all operating in Afghanistan. A fighter of the Mujahideen, describing the Cubans in combat, said they were big and black and shout very loud when they fight. Unlike the Russians, they were not afraid to attack us in the open. Dang! Fucking Cubans! Let's go! I could just see that. Just a fucking big-ass buff Cuban guy running out there. Fuck you! Fuck. That's hilarious. In 1985, the size of the LCOF, limited contingent of the Soviet forces, was increased to 108,800, and fighting increased throughout the country, making 1985 the bloodiest year of the war. However, despite suffering heavily, the Mujahideen were able to remain in the field mostly because they received thousands of new volunteers a day and continued resisting the Soviets. Oh man, this guy again. Where you at? That clip has so many views, I don't understand. The barback caramel? Bleh. This fucking guy. Barback Carmel, after the invasion, promised reforms to win support from the population alienated by his ousted predecessors. A temporary constitution, the fundamental principles of the Democratic Republic of Afghanistan, was adopted in 1980. On paper, it was a democratic constitution including the rights of free expression and disallowing torture, persecution, and punishment, contrary to human dignity. Carmel's government was formed of his fellow Parchamites, along with pro-Taraki Kalkists, and a number of known non-communist leftists in various ministries. Russians learned to keep quiet. Cubans, fuck it for Castro. Side note, the price of coffins in Cuba skyrocketed. That's fucking hilarious. Oh my god. Yeah, I could see where you're going with that. The Russians fucking a little bit more strategic. Like, hey man, we're not trying to give up our position. The Cubans just run out in the middle. They're like, fuck it, come get me. Fuck, that's kind of funny. I mean, still, you gotta be like, imagine being a soldier. You'd gotta be like in awe to see a group of dudes just run out there with machine guns out in the open and just go ham while they're screaming their face off. In Cuban. Yo, Caldy. Welcome in, how you doing? Carmel LaHarris called his regime Carmel called his regime a new evolutionary phase of the glorious April Revolution. Sounds like some Kamala Harris shit. But he failed at uniting the PDPA. In the eyes of many Afghans, he was still seen as a puppet of the Soviet Union. I mean, realistically, that's all Kamala Harris would have been, is just a puppet. If we're being real here. In the mid-1980s, the Afghan resistance movement, assisted by the United States, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, the United Kingdom, Egypt, and the People's Republic of China, and others, contributed to Moscow's high military costs and strained international relations. The U.S. viewed the conflict in Afghanistan as an integral Cold War struggle, and the CIA provided assistance to anti-Soviet forces through Pakistani intelligence services in a program called Operation Cyclone. It's actually kind of a badass name for a fucking operation. Operation Cyclone. Wasn't that like most of World War I? Yeah, basically. Glad to see you friendly live? Yeah, buddy. About half drunk? We'll get all the way drunk. Shit, we're talking about wars. Nothing more manly than getting drunk and talking about fucking war. Like shit. Men have been doing that since the dawn of men. Doesn't matter what time it is. Shit. Fuck, man. That's literally what the Vikings used to do. They used to go to war, come back, have a giant feast, get drunk, and talk about it. Fuck, yeah, let's go. I mean, this might be coffee. Might be something else. Might be coffee with something else. I don't know. It's in a solo cup. Pakistan's northwestern frontier province became a base for the Afghanistan resistance fighters and the Deobandi ulama of the province, and played a significant role in Afghan jihad, with Darul Uloom Haqqaniya becoming a prominent organizational and networking base for the anti-Soviet Afghan fighters. Yeah, those are places. Imagine driving down the road and taking a right on Darul Uloom Haqqaniya Street. Fuck. Yeah, you just go down Deobandi Ulama Boulevard and then take a right when you get to Darul Uloom Haqqaniya Street. Fuck. I mean, people might be able to enunciate their words better. Who knows? Yeah, I used to ride my bike there. Getting drunk off spoiled berries. Talking about losing Gorgad to that massive mammoth. Yeah, buddy. As well as money, Muslim countries provided thousands of volunteer fighters known as Afghan Arabs who wished to wage jihad against the atheist, communist infidels. There's that word. The infidels. Atheist, communist infidels. Ah, shit. Let's go. No wonder Islamic countries can't get shit done. Half the day is spent giving directions. No kidding. Fuck. Ah, that's fucking funny. Man. Notable among them was a young Saudi named Osama bin Laden. Osama, where did you go? Where did you go, Sama? Bro, Osama bin Laden. Fucking bro, Osama. No. Ah, that's fucking terrible. Imagine him with a monster hat on and just like sitting on a dirt bike. It's bro, Osama bin Laden. Notable among them was a young Saudi named Osama bin Laden, whose Arab group eventually evolved into Al-Qaeda. Despite their numbers, the contribution has been called a curious sideshow to the real fighting, with only an estimated 2,000 of them fighting at any one time, compared with about 25,000 Afghanistan fighters and 125,000 Soviet troops. Their efforts were also sometimes counterproductive, as in March 1989. Battle for Jalalabad. When they showed the enemy the fate awaiting infidels in the form of a truck filled with dismembered bodies of their comrades chopped to pieces after surrendering to radical non-Afghan Salafists. Damn. Though demoralized by abandonment of them by the Soviets, the Afghan communist government forces rallied to break the siege of Jalalabad and to win the first major government victory in years. I'm not kidding you, that's how it's spelled, Jalalabad. Jalalabad. This success reversed the government's demoralization from the withdrawal of Soviet forces, renewed its determination to fight on, and allowed it to survive 3 more years. That's fucking hilarious. No mention of Charlie Wilson? Shit, only 2,000, a lot still. Look what 19 of them did, yeah. Fuck. Wait, do I have this map? I don't think I have this map on here. Yeah, I don't think I have this map. Damn it. That was the one thing I forgot to grab. Fuck, son of a bitch. Maoist guerrilla groups were also active. Maoist. Fantastic. Afghanistan, what a wonderful place. Shit. To a lesser extent compared to the religious Mujahideen, a notable Maoist group was the Liberation Organization of the People of Afghanistan, or SAMA. Those who found and leader those whose founded and leader Abdul Majid Kalakani was reportedly arrested in 1980. Afghanistan's resistance movement was born in chaos, spread and triumphed chaotically, and did not find a way to govern differently. Virtually all its war was waged locally by regional warlords. As warfare became more sophisticated, outside support and regional coordination grew. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, you expect me to be afraid of these people? Like, they're so uncoordinated. What the fuck? Even so, the basic units of the Mujahideen organization in action continued to reflect the highly segmented nature of Afghan society. Exactly, highly segmented. It's all disorganized. Everybody's like, there's a bunch of infighting over power. Russians, Chinese, Afghans, Saudis, Cubans, very multicultural, I'm telling you. Maoist and Afghan, what the fuck? Yeah, exactly. Afghanistan, what a wonderful place to be, like, right there on the western part of Asia. Think about it. Afghanistan is like Asia's California. Ah, shit. Oliver Roy estimates that after 4 years of war, there were at least 4,000 bases from which the Mujahideen units operated. Most of these were affiliated with 7 expatriate parties, headquartered in Pakistan, which served as sources of supply and varying degrees of supervision. The fucking headquarters weren't even in the country. Significant commanders typically led 300 or more men, controlled several bases, and dominated a district or subdivision of province. Hierarchies of organization above bases were attempted. Their operations varied greatly in scope, the most ambitious being achieved by Ahmad Shah Massoud. Ahmad Shah Massoud. The fuck is that guy? I have him on here somewhere. I do believe it's this guy. Yep. Ahmad. Whoa. Whoa, Ahmad, calm down. Getting a little too big on the screen there, Ahmad. The most ambitious being achieved by Ahmad Shah Massoud of the Panjshir Valley, north of Kabul. He led at least 10,000 trained troops at the end of the Soviet War and expanded his political control of Tajik-dominated areas of Afghanistan's northeastern provinces under the Supervisory Council of the North. Holy moly. Roy also describes the regional ethnic and sectarian variations in Mujahideen organization. In the Pashtun areas of the east, south, and southwest, tribal structure, with its many rival subdivisions, provided the basis for military organization and leadership. Mobilization could be readily linked to traditional fighting allegiances of the tribal Lashkar, or fighting force. Take that pic down. We'll switch it back to. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to show off some of the terrain. This is what they were fighting in. Yeah. Fantastic. This is what they were fighting in. Just disgusting. In favorable circumstances, such formations could quickly reach more than 10,000, as happened when large Soviet assaults launched in the eastern provinces, or when the Mujahideen besieged towns such as Khost and Paktia province in July 1983. But in campaigns of the latter type, the traditional explosions of manpower customarily common immediately after the completion of harvest, proved obsolete when confronted by well-dug-in defenders with modern weapons. Lashkar durability was notoriously short. Few sieges succeeded. There we go. Mujahideen mobilization in non-Pashtun regions faced very different obstacles. Prior to the intervention, few non-Pashtuns possessed firearms. Early in the war, they were most readily available from army troops or the gendarmerie who defected or were ambushed. The international arms market for foreign military support tended to reach the minority areas last. Not first, last. In the northern regions, little military tradition had survived upon which to build an armed resistance. Mobilization mostly came from political leadership closely tied to Islam. Roy contrasts the social leadership of religious figures in the Persian and Turkic-speaking regions of Afghanistan with that of the Pashtuns. So now we got like 5 different languages being spoke too. Jesus. Lacking a strong political representation in a state dominated by the Pashtuns, minority communities commonly look to pious, learned, or charismatically revered peers, or saints, for leadership. Extensive Sufi and Maraboutic networks were spread through the minority communities, readily available as foundations for leadership, organization, communication, and indoctrination. Yep. Gotta indoctrinate the youth, man. That's how they do it. Unfortunately, that's how they fucking do it everywhere. Homeschool your kids. These networks are also provided for political mobilization, which led to some of the most effective of the resistance operations during the war. The Mujahideen favored sabotage operations. The more common types of sabotage included damaging power lines, knocking out pipelines and radio stations, blowing up government office buildings, air terminals, hotels, cinemas, and so on. In the border region with Pakistan, the Mujahideen would often launch 800 rockets a day. Between April 1985 and January 1987, they carried out over 23,500 shelling attacks on government targets. The Mujahideen surveyed firing positions that they normally located near villages within the range of Soviet artillery posts, putting the villagers in danger of death from Soviet retaliation. The Mujahideen used landmines heavily. Often they would enlist the services of local inhabitants, even children. See, told you. I fucking told you. They concentrated on both civilian and military targets. Knocking out bridges, closing major roads, attacking convoys, disrupting the electric power system and industrial production, and attacking police stations and Soviet military installations and air bases. They assassinated government officials and PDPA members and then laid siege to a small rural outposts. In March 1982, a bomb exploded at the Ministry of Education, damaging several buildings. In the same month, a widespread power failure darkened Kabul when a pylon on the transmission line from the Naglu power station was blown up. In June 1982, a column of about 1,000 young Communist Party members sent out to work in the Panjshir Valley were ambushed within 30 kilometers of Kabul, with heavy losses of life. On the 4th of September 1985, insurgents shot down a domestic Bakhtar Airlines plane as it took off from Kandahar Airport, killing all 52 people aboard. That's crazy. Not bad for a bunch of sandmen. Well, when you have little to no resistance, I mean, yeah, you can kind of just do what you want. Because it's not like the Afghan army was like, really, or government was really trying to fight against the Mujahideen. Like, they weren't trying to fight back. That's why they had so many devastating losses against the Soviets, and the Soviets had to put so much energy into it. Mujahideen groups used for assassination had 3 to 5 men in each. After they received their mission to kill certain government officials, they busied themselves with studying his pattern of life and its details, and then selecting the method of fulfilling their established mission. Well, they just decided to go full ninja with it. Like full ninja. They practiced shooting out of automobiles, laying mines in government accommodation or houses, using poison and rigging explosive charges in transport. In May 1985, the 7 principal rebel organizations from the 7-party Mujahideen alliance to coordinate their military operations against the Soviet army. Finally, some cohesion. Shit, it only took 6 years of the war to gain just a little bit of cohesion. Late 1985, this is probably where it really starts to turn bad for the Soviet Union. Oh, shit. Yeah, this is probably where it starts to take a shit. Late 1985, the groups were active in and around Kabul, unleashing rockets and conducting operations against the communist government. In an effort to foment unrest and rebellion by the Islamic populations of the Soviet Union, starting in late 1984, Director of the CIA, William Casey. Hold on. Wait a minute. William Casey. Where you at, William? William? Mr. Casey, where you at? Oh, there you are. This fucking old guy? Yeah, director of the CIA. Investigate why my departure's still full. Oh, only 50,000 lost last month? Not so bad, Dimitri. Right? Fuck. In an effort to foment unrest and rebellion by the Islamic populations of the Soviet Union, starting in late 1984, Director of the CIA William Casey encouraged Mujahideen militants to mount sabotage raids inside the Soviet Union, according to Robert Gates. United States. All right. Gotta love the CIA, man. Casey's executive assistant, Mohammed Yusuf, the Pakistani brigadier general who was chief of the Afghan operations. The rebels began cross-border raids into the Soviet Union in spring 1985. In April 1987, 3 separate teams of Afghan rebels were directed by the ISI to launch coordinated raids on multiple targets across Soviet border, extending. Dang. In the case of an attack on the Uzbek factory, as deep as over 16 kilometers or 10 miles into the Soviet territory. In response, the Soviets issued a thinly veiled threat to invade Pakistan to stop the cross-border attacks, and no further attacks were reported. Pakistan was like, you know what? We're good. We're good. I'm going to go ahead and say the ISI is Islamic something. It doesn't give me a description or, a link to click on to tell me what the ISI is. Hold on. Damn it. Oh, Inner Services Intelligence. That's what it is. Inner Services Intelligence. Inner Services Intelligence. There you go. Notice this happens when Reagan has Alzheimer's. Kind of like now, right? Pakistani secret police. Basically. Those hopelessly brave warriors I walked with, and their families who suffered so much for faith and freedom, and who are still not free, they were truly the people of God. Journalist Rob Schultheus. What a weird last name. 1992. International journalistic perception of the war varied. Major American television journalists were sympathetic to the Mujahideen. That is fucking hilarious. Oh, how the tables turned just a few years later. Man, our media, though. Most visible was the CBS News correspondent Dan Rather, who in 1982 accused the Soviet Union of genocide, comparing them to Hitler. Wow. You know, that is the number one go-to for our media. They overuse that. Like, they're going to have to start picking somebody else. Like Mao or Stalin or something. Like, jeez, man. That is so overused. Holy shit. If everybody's like the guy, nobody's like the guy. Like, you're kind of ruining it, you know? Holy fuck. Who has ties to Trudeau? Well, I think we know who has ties to Trudeau. Or should I say who Trudeau has ties to? Because you know he's not the one making the decisions, dude. That guy's a retard. Sorry, I got it backwards. It was an operation from Khalistani separatists against a suspected ISI agent. Ah, but Putin, he looks like children's widow. Shit, that's fucking funny. ICE institution, we brought bomb-shaped lollipops. Yeah. Hey, Mr. Wonderful, welcome in. How you doing? How you doing? Where was I at? Rather was embedded with the Mujahideen for 60 Minutes report. In 1987, CBS produced a full documentary special on the war. Yeah, I watched that. It's very interesting. If you get a chance, go ahead and watch the 1987 CBS documentary of the fucking Soviet Afghan War. It's fucking interesting. Say the least. Reader's Digest took a highly positive view of the Mujahideen, a reversal of their usual view of Islamic fighters. The publication praised their martyrdom and their role in entrapping the Soviets in a Vietnam War-style disaster. Shit. Alright, thanks for asking. Hell yeah, no problem. Glad to hear you're alright. Leftist journalist Alexander Cockburn was... Cockburn. That sucks. Damn it. Sorry to hear that. Leftist journalist Alexander Cockburn was unsympathetic. Maybe if he wasn't a lefty. Leftist journalist Alexander Cockburn was unsympathetic, criticizing Afghanistan as an unspeakable country filled with an unspeakable people. Sheepshaggers and smugglers who have furnished in their leisure hours some of the worst arts and crafts ever to penetrate the Occidental world. Like, dude, can you... Damn. Well, Alexander, you just roasted the shit. That was a fucking roast. Yield to none in my sympathy to those prostrate beneath the Russian jackboot. But if ever a country deserved the G word, it's Afghanistan. Or sorry, not the G, the R word. It's Afghanistan. Damn. I don't know. Yeah, that's pretty far there, Alexander Cockburn. Maybe you deserved that cockburn, you asshole. Euro Maiden, you mean? Poor Cockburn. Robert D. Kaplan, on the other hand, thought any perception of the Mujahideen as barbaric was unfair. Documented accounts of Mujahideen savagery were relatively rare and involved enemy troops only. Their cruelty towards civilians was unheard of during the war, while Soviet cruelty towards civilians was common. Just because it's common doesn't make it okay, or any more okay. Like, what the hell? The fuck kind of justification? Lack of interest in Mujahideen caused. Lack of interest in the Mujahideen cause, Kaplan believed, was not the lack of intrinsic interest to be found in a war between a small, poor country and a superpower where 1 million civilians were killed, but the result of a great difficulty and unprofitability of media coverage. Kaplan noted that none of the American TV networks had a bureau for a war, and television cameramen venturing to follow the Mujahideen trekked for weeks on little food only to return ill and half-starved. In October 1984, the Soviet ambassador to Pakistan, Vili Smirnov, told Agence France Presse that journalists traveling with the Mujahideen will be killed, and our units in Afghanistan will help the Afghan forces to do it. Well, Soviet ambassador. Dang. Not letting any of the word get out. He's like, we're going to take out your journal. Isn't that like a war crime? Unlike Vietnam and Lebanon, Afghanistan had absolutely no clash between the strange and the familiar. No rock video quality of zonked out GIs and headbands or rifle-wielding shite terrorists wearing Michael Jackson t-shirts that provided interesting visual materials for newscasts. Yeah, that's a cop-out justification. If you have cameras, like, war should be documented. I'm just saying. Well, here's the thing, Caldy. Has Afghanistan ever not been at war? I think the answer to that question is basically no. I'm sure there is certain parts of history where there was small periods of peace. But yeah, they've basically been at war for the entire existence. And the funny thing about it is, when do you ever hear about Afghanistan invading anybody? They don't really. Like, as a country, they don't really invade anybody, right? The Mujahideen jihadists, they might do some stupid shit trying to fight the infidel, right? They might pull some stupid shit, but, like, being real here, they fucking, I don't know, they don't really organize well, so they're not much of a threat to the greater powers of the world, right? Like, while they've always been at war, it's either with themselves or with somebody else trying to invade them. And every time somebody tries to invade them, they always fail. It's always a failure because there's a shit ton of caves and mountains and all kinds of other shit in Afghanistan, just like the Ho Chi Minh Trail in Vietnam. Back in Nam. I remember back in Nam. Stepped on a bouncing Betty. It was the worst day of my life. Also the last. Yeah, Alexander did. Yes, he did. Because obviously, we have footage of the war. All right. Let's see. As early as 1980, well, here we go. We're going to get into some of the foreign diplomatic affairs. This is why, like, part of the reason here. As early as 1983, Pakistan Foreign Ministry began working with the Soviet Union to provide them an exit from Afghanistan. Initiative is led by Foreign Minister Yaqub Ali Khan and Khurshid Kasuri. Despite inactive support for insurgent groups, Pakistanis remained sympathetic to the challenges faced by the Soviets in restoring peace, eventually exploring the possibility of setting up an interim system government under the former monarch Zahir Shah, but this was not authorized by President Zia-ul-Haq due to his stance on the issue of the Durand Line. 1984-1985, Foreign Minister Yaqub Ali Khan paid state visits to China, Saudi Arabia, Soviet Union, France, United States, and the United Kingdom in order to develop a framework On the 20th of July, 1987, the withdrawal of the Soviet troops from the country was announced. Yep. I think I have a picture of that, actually. Yep, the exit from the country was announced. April 1985. The first step to the Soviet Union's exit strategy was to transfer the burden of fighting the Mujahideen to the Afghan armed forces, who again, we just went over this, they didn't have the morale to do it in the first place. Right? None of which had anything to do with 9/11. No, actually, man. You know, I wish I could talk about the actual shit behind that, but I can't. Because I've watched channels get taken completely off of YouTube for going in depth about that. So I can't, unfortunately, but I can suggest that you do a lot of research on that, because it's all kinds of fucked up. But no, this isn't 9/11. This is in the 80s. This is Soviet Union versus Afghanistan, which we were supplying Afghanistan with weapons. Like, we were allied with them at this point. This is why I said on the last show that world governments ally with each other like high school girls go through friendships. That's not a fucking joke. That's accurate. That is accurate. Think about it. All right, let's see. During this phase, the Soviet contingent was restricted to supporting the DRA forces by providing artillery, air support, and technical assistance through some large-scale operations were still carried out by Soviet troops. Under Soviet guidance, the DRA armed forces. I have a picture of the DRA flag. The DRA... Wait, where was I at? The DRA forces provided... Yeah. Were built up to an official strength of 302,000 in 1986 to minimize the risk of a coup d'etat. They were divided into different branches, each modeled on the Soviet counterpart. The Ministry of Defense Forces numbered 132,000, the Ministry of Interior 70,000, and the Ministry of State Security 80,000. However, these were theoretical figures. In reality, each service was plagued with desertions. The Army alone suffering over 10% annual losses, or 32,000 a year. Nobody wanted to fight the Mujahideen. None of the, most of the Afghanis supported them. This is what happens when an outside government tries to come in and institute a government that is not supported by the people that live there. They don't want to have anything to do with it. Get the fuck out. Let them, kind of wallow in their own despair. Fuck them. You want to know a major portion of the Soviet collapse was this war. They spent so much goddamn money and lost so many resources and troops on it. It's like, they kind of strangled themselves, It's like, fuck. Didn't just shoot yourself in the foot, you damn blew off your whole leg. The decision to engage primarily Afghan forces was taken by the Soviets, but was resented by the PDPA, who viewed the departure of their protectors without enthusiasm. In May 1987, a DRA force attacked a well-entrenched Mujahideen positions in the Ergandab district. But the Mujahideen managed to hold their ground and attackers suffered heavy casualties. Meanwhile, the Mujahideen The Mujahideen benefited from expanded foreign military support from the United States, United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and other Muslim-majority countries. Two Heritage Foundation foreign policy analysts, Michael Johns and James A. Phillips, championed Ahmad Shah Massoud as the Afghan resistance leader most worthy of the U.S. support under Reagan doctrine. Damn it. Damn it, Reagan. I mean, can you really blame him? Yeah, kinda, but at the same time, it's like Reagan wasn't really being told a whole lot of accurate information about what was really going on over there. If you think about it, like the Mujahideen were like, we'll take your resources that you're giving us to supply us. We don't have to respect you or like you, but if you're willing to give it to us because you're trying to fight a proxy war against the Soviet Union, we'll gladly take your help. Doesn't mean that we respect or like you. Right? Like, that's fucking crazy to me. That's fucking crazy to me. That we supplied this guy thinking, hold on. We supplied this douchebag, blah, 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 and wait for it. This effing douchebag. Oh my god. Look at me. I'm so happy in my towel. This fucking douchebag. Yeah. We supplied both of them with fucking copious amounts of money. Wasn't cool. And weapons and whatever else. Granted, it was all old shit that was like outdated and fucking whatever, and that's basically what everybody else gave them too, was just a bunch of their old shit. Like, we went over on the last episode that China was the one that gave them the most relevant equipment. Get fucked. That's fucking funny. May 1986-1988. Najibullah and his reforms. The government of President Karmal, a puppet state, was largely ineffective. It was weakened by divisions with the PDPA and the Parcham faction, and the regime's efforts to expand its base of support proved futile. Moscow came to regard Karmal as a failure and blamed him for problems. As a failure. You are a failure, sir. You have failed us. You have failed us all. Look at this face. This is the face of a failure. Shit. Whoa! Afghanistan. Getting a little blown up there on the old screenage. Shit. Years later, when Karmal's inability to consolidate his government had become obvious, Mikhail Gorbachev. Wait, we have a picture of Mikhail Gorbachev, don't we? Where you at, Gorbachevsky? There you are. Mikhail Gorbachev. Yeah, this fucking guy. Then, General Secretary of the Soviet Communist Party said, the main reason that there has been no national consolidation so far that the Comrade Karmal is hoping to continue sitting in Kabul with our help. Karmal's consolidation plan was only involved those who had not raised arms against the regime, and even demanded Soviet troops to seal the border with Pakistan before any negotiations with Mujahideen. Eventually, the Soviet Union decided to dispose of Karmal from the leadership of Afghanistan. I'm going to say it again. We should have just let it be. Because, as we have discussed, we sent them weapons. And as we know, the Soviet Union collapsed because of this war. Now, would it have been the same outcome had we not supplied them with weapons? Yeah, I think it would have been relatively the same outcome. It might have taken a little bit longer for the Soviet Union to run out of money and collapse, but I don't think they would have found any success. They might have spent just as long there as we did. What is now considered America's longest war. Which is crazy to me. It's fucking crazy to me. Hold on, I'm looking for something real quick. Weird. Is my stream all like laggy and fucked up? The hell? Doesn't say that it is, but it's like, is my screen lagged out? I don't know. Fucking weird. Huh. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck is going on with this. I am not very tech savvy at all. Sorry. Alright. I think I figured that shit out. Yeah, looks good to me. No, it's not laggy. Clear here. Fuck yeah. Alright, cool. That guy loved to rock and roll. The one thing that said to be about Gorbachev. Really? Really? I didn't know that. I did not know Gorbachev liked to rock and roll. Wonder what his favorite band is. What his favorite rock band is. In May 1986, Mohammad Najibullah, former chief of the Afghan secret police, was elected general secretary and later the president of the Revolutionary Council. The relatively young leader wasn't known that well to the Afghan population at the time, but made swift reforms to change the country's situation and win support, as devised by experts of the Communist Party and Soviet Union. An elegant speaker, both the Pashto and Dari languages, Najibullah engaged with elders and presented both himself and the state as Islamic, sometimes backing his speeches with excerpts from the Quran. A number of prisoners were released, while the night curfew in Kabul that had been in place since 1980 was finally lifted. He also moved against the pro-Karmel Parchamites, who were expelled from Revolutionary Council and Politburo. President Najibullah launched the National Reconciliation Program at the start of 1987, the goal of which was to unite the nation and end a war that had enveloped the nation for 7 years. He expressed a willingness to negotiate with the Mujahideen resistance, allow parties other than the PDPA to be active, and indicated that exiled King Zahir Shah could be part of the process. A 6-month ceasefire also began in December 1986. His administration was also more open to foreign visitors outside the Soviet bloc. In November 1987, Najibullah convened at Loya Jirga, selected by the authorities, which successfully passed a new constitution for Afghanistan, creating a presidential system with an elected bicameral parliament. Billy Joel was the guy that broke him down. Dang, he loved the Beatles. Cool, got enough memory. Shit. I mean, the Beatles are a bunch of hippie coomers and communists. Doesn't mean their music was bad. It's just a fact. They were hippie coomer communists. It's just a fact. Nothing wrong with the Beatles music. Nothing wrong with the Beatles. Bunch of hippie coomer communists. The Constitution declared the sacred religion of Islam, the official religion, guaranteed the democratic rights of the individual, made it legal to form political parties, and promoted equality between various tribes and nationalities, despite high expectations. The new policy only had a limited impact in regaining support from the population and resistance, partially because of the high distrust and unpopularity of the PDPA and the KHAD, as well as Najibullah's loyalty to Moscow. As part of the new structure, the national parliamentary elections were held in 1988 to elect members of the new National Assembly. The first elections in Afghanistan in 19 years. Yep. Part of that process was actually I want to say this speech right here. This might be part of the exit process. I could be wrong. Ex-King Zahir Shah remained popular figure to most Afghans. Diego Cordovez of the UN also recognized the king as a potential key to political settlement to the war after the Soviet troops would leave. Polls in 1987 showed that he was figured to lead the potential coalition between the DRA regime and Mujahideen factions, as well as an opposition to the unpopular but powerful guerrilla leader, Gulbuddin Hekmatyar, who was strongly against the king's return. Pakistan, however, was against this and refused to grant the ex-king a visa for potential negotiations with Mujahideen. Pakistan's president, Zia-ul-Haq, and his supporters in the military were determined to put a conservative Islamic ally power in Kabul. Negotiations continued, and in 1988, Leningrad was a brilliant song from that. Yeah. Look up Billy Joel's Russian tour. Will do. Will do. I will look that up indeed. Negotiations continued, and in 1988 through 1989, the interim Afghan government formed the Peshawar as an alliance of various Mujahideen groups, including Hezb-e-Islami and Jamaat, and would be involved in Operation Arrow and the Siege of Khost. Following lengthy negotiations, the Geneva Accords were signed in 1988 between Afghanistan and Pakistan, supported by the Soviet Union and the United States respectively. The two Asian countries agreed to refrain from any form of interference in each other's territory. They also agreed to allow Afghan refugees in Pakistan to voluntarily return. The two superpowers agreed to halt their interference in Afghanistan, which included a Soviet withdrawal. The United Nations set up a special mission to oversee the process. In this way, President Najibullah had stabilized his political position enough to begin matching Moscow's moves towards withdrawal. Among other things, Geneva Accords identify the U.S. and Soviet non-intervention in the internal affairs of Pakistan and Afghanistan, and a timetable for full Soviet withdrawal. The agreement of the withdrawal held on February 15, 1989. The last Soviet troops departed on schedule from Afghanistan. That's what this picture is right here. These are the troops leaving. All those fucking reporters, man. Holy shit. Paparazzi! Paparazzi! The promotion of Mikhail Gorbachev to General Secretary in 1985 and putting his new thinking on foreign and domestic policy was likely an important factor in the Soviets' decision to withdraw. Gorbachev had been attempting to remove the Soviet Union from the economic stagnation that had been set in under the leadership of Brezhnev, and to reform the Soviet Union's economy and image with the glasnost and perestroika policies. Gorbachev had also been attempting to ease Cold War tensions by signing the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty with the U.S. in 1987 and withdrawing troops from Afghanistan, whose presence had garnered so much international condemnation. Beijing had stipulated that a normalization of relations would have to wait until Moscow withdrew its army from Afghanistan. And in 1989, the first Sino-Soviet summit in 30 years took place. At the same time, Gorbachev pressured his Cuban allies in Angola to scale down activities and withdraw, even though Soviet allies were faring somewhat better there. Soviet also pulled many of their troops out of Mongolia in 1987, where they were also having a far easier time than Afghanistan, and restrained the Vietnamese invasion of Kampuchea to the point of an all-out withdrawal in 1988. This massive withdrawal of Soviet forces from such highly contested areas shows that the Soviet government's decision to leave Afghanistan was based upon a general change in Soviet foreign policy, from one of confrontation to avoidance of conflict wherever possible. And their papers calculated withdrawal by our brave soldiers for complicated their mission, which totes wasn't a failed invasion and occupation. Yeah, well, unfortunately it was their fucking Vietnam. In the last phase, Soviet troops prepared and executed their withdrawal from Afghanistan whilst limiting the launching of offensive operations by those who had not withdrawn yet. By mid-1987, the Soviet Union announced that it would start withdrawing its forces. Sigbatullah Mojadedi was selected as the head of the interim Islamic State of Afghanistan in an attempt to reassert its legitimacy against the Moscow-sponsored Kabul regime. Mojadedi, as head of the interim Afghanistan government, met with then Vice President of the United States, George Bush. Where you at, George? Jorg. There you are. There you are with your nasty-ass teeth, George Bush, you bastard. Achieving a critical diplomatic victory for the Afghan resistance. Defeat of the Kabul government was their solution for peace. This confidence, sharpened by their distrust of the United Nations, virtually granted their refusal to accept a political compromise. In September 1988, Soviet MiG-23s. Soviet MiG-20... Where are you at? Mr. MiG-23, where are you at? Soviet MiG-23. There it is. Soviet MiG-23s fighters shot down 2 Iranian AH-1J Cobra helicopters, which had intruded into Afghan airspace. Operation Magistral was one of the final offensive operations undertaken by the Soviets, a successful sweep operation that cleared the road between the towns of Gardez and Khost. This operation did not have any lasting effect on the outcome of the conflict, nor the solid political and military status of the Soviets in the eyes of the West, but was a symbolic gesture that marked the end of their widely condemned presence in the country with the victory. The first half of the Soviet contingent withdrawn from 15th of May to 16th of August 1988, and the second was from 15th of November to the 15th of February 1989. In order to ensure safe passage, the Soviets had negotiated ceasefires with local Mujahideen commanders. The withdrawal was generally executed peacefully, except for the Operation Typhoon. General Yazov, the defense minister of the Soviet Union, ordered the 40th Army to violate the agreement with Ahmad Shah Massoud, who commanded a large force in the Panjshir Valley, and attack his relaxed and exposed forces. The Soviet attack was initiated to protect Najibullah, Again with Najibullah. Who did not have a ceasefire in effect with Massoud, and who rightly feared an offensive by Massoud's forces after the Soviet withdrawal. General Gromov, the 40th Army commander, objected to the operation but reluctantly obeyed the order. Typhoon began on January 23rd and continued for 3 days to minimize their own losses. The Soviets abstained from close-range fighting. Instead, they used long-range artillery, surface-to-surface or air-to-surface missiles. Numerous civilian casualties were reported. Massoud had not threatened the withdrawal to this point and did not attack Soviet forces after they breached the agreement. Overall, the Soviet attack represented a defeat for Massoud's forces, who lost 600 fighters and killed and wounded. After the withdrawal of Soviets, the DRA forces were left fighting alone and had to abandon some provincial capitals, as well as disbanding their air assault brigades a year prior. It was widely believed they would not be able to resist the Mujahideen for long. However, in the spring of 1989, the DRA forces inflicted a major defeat on the Mujahideen during the Battle of Jalalabad, as well as launching successful assaults on fortified complexes in Pagman in 1990. The United States, having achieved its goal of forcing the Soviet Union withdrawal from Afghanistan, gradually disengaged itself from the country. Man, oh man. Some of the causes of the Soviet Union's withdrawal from Afghanistan leading to the Afghanistan regime's eventual defeat include: the Soviet Army of 1980 was trained and equipped for large-scale conventional warfare in Central Europe against similar opponent. It used armored and motor rifle formations. This was notably ineffective against small-scale guerrilla groups using hit-and-run tactics in rough terrain of Afghanistan. Yep, ain't it a bitch. Also, the Soviet Army's large formations, were not mobile enough to engage small groups of the Mujahideen fighters that easily merged back into the terrain. The set strategy also meant that the troops were discouraged from tactical initiative, essential in counterinsurgency because it tended to upset operational timing. The Soviets used large-scale offensives against the Mujahideen strongholds, such as in the Panjshir Valley, which temporarily cleared those sectors and killed many civilians in addition to enemy combatants. The biggest shortcoming here, though, was the fact that once the Soviets engaged the enemy with force, they had failed to hold the ground as they withdrew once their operation was completed. The killing of civilians further alienated the population from the Soviets. With bad long-term effects. Yeah, see, we had the same issue, bro. We had the same issue going over there. It's almost like we should have saw it coming. Damn. The Soviets did not have enough men to fight a counterinsurgency war, and their troops had low morale. The peak number of Soviet troops during the war was 115,000, but the bulk of these troops were conscripts, which led to poor combat performance in their motor rifle formations. However, Soviets did have their elite infantry units, such as the famed Spetsnaz, the VDV, and their recon infantry. The problem with their elite units was not combat effectiveness, but that there were not enough of them and that they were employed incorrectly. Intelligence gathering. Essential for successful coin or counterinsurgency. Right? Was inadequate. The Soviets overly relied on less than an accurate aerial recon and radio intercepts rather than their own recon infantry and special forces. Although their special forces and recon infantry units performed very well in combat against the Mujahideen, they would have better served intelligence gathering. The concept of a war of national liberation against Soviet-sponsored revolutionary regime was so alien to the Soviet dogma that the leadership could not come to grips with it. This led to, among other things, the suppression by the Soviet media for several years of the truth about how bad the war was going, which caused a backlash when it was able to hide it further. Yeah, we did the same thing in Vietnam. Oh, the war's almost over. We're doing such a good job. We're making so much progress. Hell yeah, root on go America. And then people started to catch on, and guess what happened? Fuck this shit. Protests all up in the streets. Everybody's freaking out. Everybody's going to fucking town on each other. It's over, buddy. It's over. Shit. Even though that was the end of the war, right? Because after the withdrawal of the Soviet troops in 1989, the government of Mohammad Najibullah remained in power until April 15, 1992. Najibullah stepped down that day as the Mujahideen guerrilla forces moved into Kabul. He attempted to fly to India under the protection of the UN, but was blocked from leaving the airport. He then took refuge at the United Nations compound in Kabul. After a bloody 4-year power struggle between different factions of the victorious anti-Najibullah forces, the Taliban took Kabul. They stormed the UN compound on September 26, 1996, and they eventually tortured and killed Najibullah. So, that being the end of it, there's still going to be a part 3. Because I want to go over fucking some of the other shit. The aftermath, the spillover, the impact, foreign involvement, war crimes, aerial engagements, shit like that. You know what I mean? All the nitty gritty. The good stuff. But in a sense, that was the Afghan-Soviet War. Soviets are stupid. But then again, we made the same fucking mistake, so I guess so are we. Right? Ooh, war crimes. Yeah. Yeah, war crimes. Because, like, the Human Rights Watch organization concluded that Soviet Red Army and its communist-aligned Afghanistan army, like, they did a shit ton of war crimes. Like, evidently, allegedly in Minecraft. Yeah, we'll get into that on part 3. There won't be a stream tomorrow, guys. There will not be a stream tomorrow night. Yes, tomorrow night is Verbal Combat over on Speakeasy stream. Fucking awesome. You know my ass is going up on that. Especially because I kind of have to. I have a character to play. And if I break character, then Jeremy's gonna unalive me immediately. So I have to test myself and see if I can debate and stay in character the entire time. So that should be fun. As a Canadian, that's your favorite part? Yeah, buddy. You just win that shit without even trying? Well, it's more of a tactical thing, right? If I go on there and say a bunch of stupid nonsense, then that's mostly what people are going to remember. But if I go on there, be genuine, right? Speak confidently about the things that I know about, and am more often than not pretty based, people are generally going to like that, right? So it's like, it's a voting system. And I understand that half of the voting game is popularity. So as long as you say what is mostly the correct thing, right? people are going to like you. Now, I don't just say what people want to hear because fuck all that noise. I could give two shits less what you think. That's why I talk about war. Whoa! A little bit too soon on that, Jesus. We're not ending the stream quite yet. My goodness. Calm down. Anyways. Yeah. I mean, but that's how a lot of politicians do it. They play the game, right? And while I may partially play the game by sometimes arguing the opposite side or a side that a take that I don't necessarily hold, that's more so to develop my ability to debate. Because if I ever have to debate, like if I ever end up having to debate somebody in my life for a serious purpose or a serious reason, not just some verbal combat thing on Friday that's all fun and games to me, right? If I actually had to debate somebody, I would rather have my debate skills improved. And then on top of that, improving your debate skills improves your conversational skills too. So that's a major reason why I go on Friday nights. Not just to be entertaining for the crowd, but to also hone in my skills. Speakeasy's not wrong when he talks about that. And he puts on a great show. It's like, more shit like that is actually needed. Speak's a legend and a pioneer. Not even kidding you. Like, he fucking nailed it with verbal combat and Ultimate Verbal Championship. Pretty fucking nailed it. Like, it's a necessary thing. Especially in an age where people are, like, less and less able to communicate with one another effectively. There's going to be an extra. I know. Oh, my goodness. I saw that guy. Holy moly. I don't know if like, man, I don't have a filter. It's part of the reason I didn't go up. Holy shit, man. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard not to be a fucking asshole. Not to be a Richard Cranium. Ha ha. Because you know that's what's going to happen. That guy's going to go up on the panel and I'm going to be like, dude, what are you fucking doing? Come on now. Don't be stupid. That dude will not make it? No. No, he won't make it 5 minutes. He's a great aggregator. Yeah. No, that guy is fucking... That was wild. Some of the claims that guy was making. And, you know, here's the thing. Shout outs to Speakeasy and his, like, blessed logical mind. And the fact that he actually does his fucking research. Shout outs to Speak. Because he was 100% correct yesterday when he said people with those kind of disorders don't even realize what they're doing when they're doing it. They don't know that they have the disorder. They don't walk around like, oh, woe is me, I have fucking schizophrenia. Let me just fucking get a pass in society wherever I want and whatever I want to do. Because I'm gay and I'm fucking blah, blah, blah. And I'm this and I'm that. And fucking I should get a free pass because I'm a minority. And fucking, I have mental illness. Yeah, guess what? You're talking shit about Brick being gay, and then that came up. Like, literally, dude. Holy shit. It's almost like Brick was prepping us for some, like, crazy shit. Because had that just come up out of nowhere, I think we all would have been a little thrown off guard. Holy fuck, man. Jesus Christ. Crazy shit. That dude is fucking... on some next level attention seeking nonsense. God damn it. Bless Speakeasy for fucking calling him on all of his bullshit, and Kieran too, and Haku. Like, fucking A. He went from one psychiatrist to 3. He had have multiple lawyers, make art but have nothing to show, or on psych meds but can't name them. I know, dude. Like, instead of schizophrenia, you know what that seems a lot more like? A pathological liar. And you know why pathological liars do what they do? Purely for attention, because they were starved of it as a child. It almost seems like his dad went missing Never came back, and his mom just kind of neglected to pay attention to him. Put him in front of the TV. Or put him in front of this, put him in front of that. Craved attention, didn't know how to socialize. Got outcasted. Was trying to find a place to fit in. Like, I don't know, the fucking all-inclusive community. Oh, well, maybe that's my problem. Maybe I'm just this, and this. And that's where the indoctrination begins. Once you convince yourself of that stupid fucking nonsense, you go down this fucking rabbit hole, this fucked up downward spiral, and you start doing research and collecting evidence for why that is true. And you wind up in a deeper depressive state because you're not really solving the fucking issue. Yeah, that was a rant and a half. But seriously, that guy was something fucking else, man. I'm telling you. Holy shit. There are waste treatment plants that are less full of shit than that guy was. There just are. Like, I don't know what else to say. That guy was fucking just ridiculous. But thank God, Speakeasy is fucking not... He's not stupid, right? That guy's fucking legend. So shoutouts to him. That's why there's no stream tomorrow, because I'm going on verbal combat. And evidently I have to be an old guy, because Will, I think some guy named Will, in the chat, in someone's chat, I think it was Speak's chat, right? Some guy named Will was like, I'm in my 50s, I might be a little too old. I'm like, boy, just for that I'm going to use an old guy voice the entire time Friday. Just gonna be an old guy. Back in Nam, you little whippersnapper, back in fucking Nam, we didn't have feminists. And we were fighting commies. And now that's all we got is goddamn commie feminists. What the fuck is this? I didn't go to war for this shit. I didn't go to goddamn war for you motherfuckers to grow up this way. You're 46? Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not 46. I'm not even in my 40s. But I can sure as hell act like I'm in my 90s. Goddamn bastards. Everybody's so fucking weak in this new generation. Bunch of crybabies. Jesus. Why don't you try spending fucking 3 years at the Ho Chi Minh Trail? You worked for your F-slur pass? Yep. Man. Yeah. Shoot. Part 3 is going to be fun. But that'll probably be, Saturday night? Today is Friday? Yeah, it's Friday morning. So that'll be Saturday night. Then will be part 3 to end the Soviet Afghan War. And if there's a specific one you want me to go over next, let me know. Let me know if there's a specific battle or war you want me to go over next for this series. Otherwise, I'm just going to pick one, because right now I don't have any requests for anything. So, that being said, if I have to pick one, it's probably going to be like an older one. Gulf War syndrome stuff. I have the first Gulf War already up. It was the first one I did. The first one I covered was the Gulf War. Second one I covered was Vietnam, and this is the third one. So, considering that I have Gulf War, Vietnam, and this one, right? The Afghan-Soviet War, which were all requested, ironically. And then as far as the return to Afghanistan and Iraq, I can do that. I can go over the return, right? 2001. Yeah, it's just in the past lives. All of my shows that I do. So here's my goal with this. This is why part of the reason I do this is because for me, right? I I like documentaries. I don't know. I know there's other people out there that like documentaries. I know they're not the most popular thing in the planet, right? But for me, like, I work a lot. So it's hard to find time to sit down and actually read this information, right? So it's nice to have documentaries where you have actual accounts and then interviews with people that were actually in the war. Like the documentary, the fucking 13 documentaries I watched on Vietnam War before I put that video out were hella old ass dudes just talking about it, wearing their fucking Vietnam vet hats and shit. Back in Nam, I tell you, back in Nam, I lost my left leg. But I crawled up to that damn Ho Chi Minh Trail, fucking stuck my rifle in the hole, and I wasted me some commies. Rome Civil War. Alright, I'm down. I'm down to do the Rome Civil War. Let's go. Anytime throughout history, like, literally, you could pull shit from, like, ancient Sumeria, and I will go dig up those fucking archives, learn everything I can learn about it, and then fucking we'll go over it. Like, seriously. But yeah, Rome Civil War, I'm down for that. I'm totally down for that, because there's gotta be some hella good tactics. Like, that's the thing about that. Do the triumvirate. All right, that's the thing about ancient battle strategies versus today's battle strategies. Today, we let computers do a lot of the work. Back in the day, you had to be strategic. You had to actually think, use the terrain to your advantage, and, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's one time Alexander the Great didn't even have to go to war with this guy because the guy was, like, seated in a mountain crescent, right? And so the only way in was through the front. And he was like, the leader of that was like, oh, we could just shut down and just be in here perpetually, like, fuck you, kind of thing. Your troops will starve to death before you siege me, right? And the only way you're going to be able to attack me is if you attack me from behind, and the only way that's going to happen is if you have winged troops. Well, Alexander had his, like, special forces guys route around the mountains and climb up the mountains at night so that they could post up in the morning, right? And then the king of that, like, little community village thing, he turns around and he's like, because he's like, oh, you can't get me, you don't have winged soldiers. And Alexander's like, maybe I do, look behind you. And he looks behind him, sees a big old mass. And because he didn't know how many soldiers were ready to siege him from behind, from atop the mountain where they have the high ground advantage, he immediately just conceded and surrendered. There wasn't even a war. He was just like, you know what, we're done here. That's it. Yeah, I'm telling you. Fucking Alexander was like, that dude was, I will gladly go over anything of his, any battles of his. Like, Napoleon was pretty fucking smart too. I'd be down to go over Napoleon at any point in time. Rome, shit, man. Canute, the Vikings, like, all that good shit, man. Any time period in history, if you want to hear about it, we can do it. We can do it. We can make it happen. Oh, and I'm also learning how to animate. I know I say that every episode, but goddamn it, I'm making a thing. Like, I'm learning how to animate so I can fucking animate some of this shit for you guys prior to streaming it live, and then kind of do the, like, monologue along with the animation, so it correlates more than my slideshow. Because, like, I get lucky sometimes where my slideshow matches up with what I'm talking about, but it's not every time. And that kind of drives me nuts a little bit. I don't know about you guys, but it drives me nuts a little bit. And so I think I figured out a way to do it with animations. I just have to have the right animating program and the knowledge of how to use it, which I'm currently learning, right? So once I get a little bit better at that, then we'll have some animations and shit going on. That helicopter timing was hilarious, and yeah, dude, it was hilariously good. It happens. Like, if you go back to the Gulf War, there's several times that happens when I was talking about the Gulf War. And then in the Vietnam War. Ironically, it happens a few times too. I got lucky. I was just like, all right, cool. But naturally, that's going to happen. If it's through a loop and it keeps going, eventually what you're talking about is going to match up, right? But I stopped, like, for the Gulf War, I did a lot of just slideshow playing instead of what I've been doing recently more and more is pulling, like, pictures and visual representations of what I'm talking about or who I'm talking about. So that'll coincide with the animations, right? It'll be animations, and then I'll stop the animation and bring up who I'm talking about if I'm talking about somebody specific and I have their picture or access to their picture, right? It'll get more structured as time goes on. I just have to learn more tech-savvy shit. I am not a computer guy by any means, so all of this shit is new to me. Aside from, like, streaming itself, right? All of the, like, interworkings of editing and all that shit, I don't know how to do any of that. So it's a learning process. But, and shout outs to you guys. You will have been here from the beginning as it gets better and better. And then also, there's a new series that's getting started up. I just have to get the business name confirmed, right? Once it's confirmed and set, and that's like that becomes an actual business, then I will start the series relating to the new business, right? The one that I'm going to kind of show the community the struggles that it's going to take to build this business up from the literal ground up. Whether I have to get loans or pay for all the shit my damn self, right? Like, the chat's going to be a part of that, and I think that might benefit a lot of people. I think that might provide a good amount of benefit just to see what the struggles are, right? Because everybody thinks they're an entrepreneur. Everybody thinks they have what it takes to put in that kind of time, energy, effort. And it's a lot of work. Especially in an industry that you know what I mean, you're completely unfamiliar with because you've been in the fitness industry for damn near a decade. And then before that, like before I have my parkour business, right? So before that, I fucking basically worked at fast food places. Like, bounced around from like I worked at Papa John's at one point, Round Table Pizza, Arby's, fucking goddamn, I've worked at a 7-Eleven, a Marriott hotel, fucking worked at car dealerships. Like, I've worked at all kinds of different fucking places, but it was like never for too long or fucking, you know what I mean? I didn't have any like real direction or like know where I wanted to take it because I had so many options of where to go. It was like hard to pick one. It's like, oh, well, I'm basically good at everything I apply myself to. So like, what the fuck? I could basically do whatever I want. And then you kind of fall into this weird little trap of like, I can do whatever I want. So I'll just, do whatever I want. It's like, no. Eventually, in my later 20s, I realized that that's a fucking terrible mistake that I was making, and I needed to fucking turn my goddamn life around and started, you know what I mean, start actually being militant about my life and planning for the future, fucking, you know what I mean, really being like hardcore parkour, but like with my life. And then I was working at a fast food place and fucking like this guy that worked for the National Academy of Sports Medicine came in, was talking to me for a minute, and we were just talking about fitness stuff, and he was like, wow, you're really fucking smart. You should be a personal trainer. You get paid more than you would in this fucking shithole. I was like, yeah. And he's like, and you won't get fat. I started laughing. And I thought about it, and then he was like, yeah, it's a 10-week course, but you get access to all the materials and shit, and it can all be done completely online, whatever. I'm like, oh. Thinking in my head, wow, so a literal third grader could just get their personal training certification. That's fucking interesting. Like, it's a 10-week course. All the shit's online. You get your book. immediately and access to all 10 weeks of material. I had the course done in 4 weeks. 100%, like not hard at all. They give you the course material, they give you the answers. A third grader could do this shit. Like, what the fuck? What is the point of even getting a personal training certification if they're this easy to get? Like, everyone could just be a personal trainer. I don't have to pay attention to shit that I'm learning because I have all the answers that I could just throw in there. Fortunately for me, I've been a martial artist and a parkour athlete my entire life, and fitness has been a really, really big part of my, like, who I am as a person. So I naturally know a lot about it for having studied it a long-ass time. I would have gotten 100 regardless if I had the answers, access to them or not. But, like, the fact that a third grader could still ace the shit out of getting a personal training certification is mind-blowing to me. Mind-blowing to me. I think it's a facade. I think it's full of shit. I think most personal trainers are full of shit and they just do it for the fucking, whatever. Like, oh, I get to make money and hang out at the gym all day or whatever their fucking reason is. I don't think that they actually truly care about their clients. Right? A lot of schools popping up. A lot of totally overpriced schools and courses popping up. Yeah, exactly. Right? And so, like, and then on top of that, I don't teach, like I'm not your normal personal trainer. You know what I mean? Like, first off, I'm a human movement specialist. I focus specifically on human movement and nothing else. Like, let's say a person wanted to be a bodybuilder and they wanted me to specifically train them to be a bodybuilder. Yes, I could train you to do some Arnold Schwarzenegger level shit. I would advise against it because that would make you overweight. Your bone structure still has weight limits before it starts having too much stress on it. Like, there's a reason a healthy body mass index is key. And yes, you can be overweight by being too muscular. You can be overweight by being too fat. You can be underweight by being way too skinny. But what I teach is human movement, right? So it's a combination of parkour, martial arts, and basically like calisthenics and plyometrics. A bunch of stretching. Like I said last time, most of my clients are old people, right? Like people well into their 50s and 60s is most of my clientele. Aside from that, it's mostly kids that I teach parkour to because they think parkour is cool and I want to be a ninja. Okay, sweet. I'll teach the kids how to be a ninja. 1, that could save their life one day. 2, they're going to be more in tune with their bodies. 3, it's going to help their physical fitness. Like, innumerably, right? Like, you just can't conceive the amount of benefits physically that parkour and free running has for you. I can't label them all without going into an entire stream about it. You know what I mean? And there's a bunch of cognitive benefits, too, to improving your human movement, right? So, like, as far as kids are concerned, they think it's cool. As far as old people are concerned, it's to improve their range of motion. Because as you start to get old, things start to get creaky and they start to hurt more and more. And it starts to get harder and harder to bend certain ways and do certain things. And, well, I have a vast wealth of knowledge to help ease that kind of nonsense. So I do my best to help people. But aside from all that, right? Aside from my fitness business backstory, I'm starting a new business. The chat's going to be a part of. It's going to be an aeronautics engineering business. I know that sounds weird, but like that's kind of where technology's going. And so if you get ahead of the curve, right, by making personal aerial transport vehicles relatively affordable and to the general public, which currently you don't need a pilot's license to operate. Yep, said that on my chill stream. Don't need a pilot's license to operate an ultralight aircraft. As long as it weighs a certain amount and flies, it's an ultralight aircraft. Now, I can make an ultralight aircraft from scratch for less than $20,000, which is far less than you can buy a brand new car for. And I'll guarantee you, as long as that aircraft is maintained and taken care of, it'll last you a lot longer than any new car you buy nowadays. Like, cars post 2006, 2007 are fucking ass. Holy shit. I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but you buy a brand new car, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2024. These motherfuckers are like, one thing goes wrong, right? One little valve is fucking busted. And it's not even really busted. It still works. It's just, just a little busted. The whole car shuts down. You can't even start it. Oh, your hood's popped. Guess what? Can't start your car. It's latched. It's just, not fully closed all the way. Nope, can't start your car. Gas knob's not tight enough. Can't start your car. Check engine lights on. Oh, shit, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, holy crap, dude. They put so many, disabling mechanisms into vehicles for whatever fucking fucked up reason that it's like, nowadays, if you have a flat tire, your car doesn't fucking work properly. It's like, dude, come on. Holy shit. I like my 2002 WRX. Oh, I ain't fucking getting rid of that thing for nothing. You got crop dusters galore? Hell yeah, dude. Crop dusters are the shit. Bro, crop dusters are the shit. They could just take off. Like, you got a good enough headwind, you could take off at 30, 40 feet or the fucking runway. Like, crop duster, and then crop duster pilots are fucking insane. Especially, the dudes that fly helicopters. I don't know if you've ever seen a helicopter crop duster, but them dudes, when they turn around to come back, that helicopter is, looking straight down. It's fucking crazy. Holy shit, them fucking guys. I don't know if I'd ever be down to pilot a helicopter. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think I'd ever be down to pilot a helicopter. Planes? All day long. All day long. Helicopter? Fuck that. Fuck all that. If my engine dies in a plane, I can glide that shit and still land it. If my engine dies in a helicopter, that's I get it. Going down still makes the blade spin, which keeps the helicopter relatively aloft. But I don't trust that shit worth a damn, and you gotta be falling pretty fucking fast to make that shit spin like a windmill. With enough to generate enough lift to slow you down at least. That shit's crazy to me. Nope. No engine failures in a helicopter. Fuck all that noise. Engine failure in an airplane, that's fine. That's totally fine. As long as you don't stress out, you'll be alright. Aviate, navigate, and then communicate your issue. If you can see the airport, you're fucking good if your engine dies. If you can't see the airport, look for a flat spot of land and aim for it. And then once you're, comfortable that you're able to make it to that destination, you communicate with air traffic control and be like, hey, I'm going down. I'll be at this this location. And then the NTSB goes out and they fucking conduct an investigation. And if they find out that there was malpractice, you lose your pilot's license. It's a bummer. Fucking bummer. Evidently, you can just get it back, though, because there's a YouTuber that jumped out of his airplane for no reason. Just jumped out of his airplane to make a YouTube video. Sent his airplane plummeting to the earth like an unguided missile. Lost his pilot's license, applied for a fucking appeal, and got his fucking PPL back. This is why I don't understand how more people don't have their Its licenses, man. The FAA doesn't care. Holy shit. It's so lackadaisical. It's fucking funny. I mean, look at Boeing. FAA don't give a shit. They're just like, oh, you got money to pay us? Cool. Yeah. The guy that stole the plane in Tupelo mysteriously dies in custody. Yep. Well, I mean, all the Boeing informants, or, all the Boeing people, they mysteriously were randomly, like, what is there, like 3 of them now? 3 Boeing fucking whistleblowers that have been found dead in a car, hotel, or some other fucking place. Hey, that door fell off and landed on a pile of bribe money. Fancy that? Exactly. Oh, shit, that's fucking funny. God damn. Oh, shit. Fucking A, man. God damn it. Well, shit. I guess that's it for me, guys. For the night. Gonna go ahead and head out. Gotta get some kind of relaxation in before I have to get up at the ass crack of dawn. As it is starting to be fall, all the fucking tall grass and plants and shit are dying around my property, so I gotta go chop down all the dead shit, turn it into mulch and spread it around everywhere else that's fucking, got crops I gotta take care of, and chickens and shit like that, so gotta be up with the sun, and that's in 4 hours. You're gonna look up a concert? Right on. Sounds like fun. Hell yeah, man. Well, shit. No matter where you're at in the world, no matter what time it is, morning, noon, afternoon, evening, or night, enjoy your time, because it could be limited. As for me, my time with you has ended. I will see y'all next time. Have a wonderful, wonderful night.
I just wish he knew. just wish he knew.